Hey, Ron.
Hey, Jeremy.
You want to know what episode we're on today?
What episode are we on today?
150.
150?
You're listening to episode 150 of the D6 Podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 Podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the family ministry podcast that helps you connect church and home. Ron, today I want to make a confession to you.
Ooh, hang on.
It's confession time. Again, I love making my man nervous here. The scripture says we should confess to one another. I'm going to do it.
I'm listening.
As a minister, and probably just as a person.
And so is everybody else, by the way, just so you know.
I am not really good at long-range planning. I never was. So what would happen?
I would have never guessed that.
So what would happen as a minister is it would roll up on Thanksgiving, and I'm like, hey, we should probably do something for Christmas. You know, that's kind of how I would roll. It was not a strong point for me.
I thought you were going to say we'd roll up on Thanksgiving and think we need to buy a turkey.
Now, I'm going to just crawl out on a little limb here and make a guess that you are awesome at long-range planning.
I can be. You know, I want to cast that vision. I just don't want to do the details to get there.
There you go.
I want other people to do that.
And, you know, here's the reality. It's just a personality thing, but there are some people that are listening right now that need a reminder that Easter is coming.
That's right.
It's coming on April 21st. Mark your calendar.
We've moved it a little further in the year for you this year just to help you out if you are a procrastinator.
That's right. So we need to do something for Easter. And one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because you are releasing a resource.
That's right.
That will help families for Easter. And I think that is so cool because we do all this other stuff. And I recognize Easter's high attendance day for everybody. Right. But to think about family ministry at Easter, you guys have something for that.
We do. You know, every Christmas, people want the Advent guides. We did an Advent guide, literally sold out in days, and we were blown away. So we decided we would release an Easter guide this year, and the Easter guide is one that you do with your family. It's an 8-day journey from Palm Sunday to Resurrection, and each day includes a devotional passage from Scripture that shows how Jesus fulfilled a messianic promise and demonstrates his divine nature. And imagine parents or grandparents, whether you're single parent, whatever, being able to walk your family through this. Even if your college kids are away from home, texting them every day, buying a guide, swapping out, even by way of text, guiding them through it. It doesn't matter if you're separated by your geography and you're not around a dinner table. Consider getting these and walking your family through it. Buy them for every family in your church and let Easter come alive in a way that is not just about what happens at church, but it's about how we prepare our hearts for it every single day.
And this isn't a $20 book or anything. This is one of those things that you buy in bulk and you can give out to all families.
That's right.
I think I'm looking at it. The price here, is this correct? $2.49 a piece?
I believe so. And when you buy them in bulk, they go down in price from there. It goes all the way down to
$1.79 if you order a large number. So what that means is this is the kind of thing that you can give out to the whole church and just kind of. And by the way, these are the kind of things that some of you might be going, well, not everybody's going to look at it. Here's my philosophy on that. It doesn't matter whether everybody looks at it, because what they're going to know is you tried. you gave them something, that you're a source of encouragement to them. Even if they don't look at it, they can know, hey, this church is really trying to help my family.
That's
and
right.
That's an important message too.
And while you've got plenty of time to prepare, you can wait to order. I will tell you, our Advent guides at Christmas sold out literally in days, and we had churches ordering, and we turned them away. Don't wait. Go ahead and get those, even though you got a little bit of time for Easter. That way you can start promoting them. You can hold them up. You can put a picture on your slide deck and let families get prepared and excited about going through this.
You can order at d6family.com/Easter. Now, today, I remember when we celebrated, by the way, this is episode 150. Congratulations.
It is. Yes.
Which it was about at episode 50 where we started to say, oh, no, we have to plan our celebration for episode 100.
That's correct.
And the episode 100, we invited John Trent, who is our guest again today.
Correct.
And for me, I don't know if I even got to tell you this. I think I did. John Trent wrote the book, The Blessing.
Yep.
And I don't know that there's been a more transformational book for me. I mean, a lot of what I do in my world is about blessing and helping, and that power of blessing with parents. And it really just was foundational from John Trent. So to get to spend the day with him is almost, for me, just like getting to spend the day with a hero.
Yes.
But it was fun just to get to know him and just kind of see that he is what he seems to be.
That's
which
right.
is not always.
That's right. Yeah.
It's not always true. So he's going to be talking to us about blessing your family. So powerful. And then we have Olivia Bruner.
That's right. And she's going to talk about the 4 roots to lifelong faith. She and her family have been dedicated to family ministry since before family ministry was even part of our nomenclature. She and her husband, Kurt, they were part of Focus on the Family. They have been key, brilliant parents. They've been ministry leaders. They understand it not from, hey, let's jump on the bandwagon the last 3 to 5 years or last decade. They've been doing this for several decades. I don't want to make her sound old, but I'm just saying she and Kurt have been pioneers in the architecture side of what family ministry should look like.
That is amazing. What's also amazing, I'm going to need a second here because I'm Googling nomenclature. I'm going to have to figure out. I'll get back to you guys on what that is. But, hey, listen.
Jeremy.
Maybe I could ask Olivia. She's very smart. Maybe she
Or
can
ask
help
Johnny
me.
W.
Man, you went way back to the episode where
we were
Johnny,
having
we're
fun.
sorry.
Yes.
He's still not.
I'm still saying comedians are brilliant. They just don't show it.
So go back to episode 147 if you want to understand that line. I love the inside jokes on the D6 podcast. All right. Hey, let's just go on into John Trent's interview. And John, thanks for being with us again, man. You're a living legend. After the break, we are going to hear from Dr. John Trent about the power of blessing in a family.
Practical Family Ministry is a collection of ideas for your church that offers practical and encouraging advice to those who want to make an impact in family ministry. Readers are reminded of the God-designed channels through which discipleship should occur, the church and the home. Parents, as well as ministry leaders, will be equipped to do their part to carry out the spiritual discipline of discipleship. Visit d6family.com to order your copy today.
Well, today's a treat for me because we have Dr. John Trent, and you guys most likely have heard that name because he's an award-winning, best-selling author and speaker, published over 20 books, including the one of my favorites that has changed my life in every single way. It's called The Blessing, and there have been over 2 million copies in print. He currently runs his ministry, Strong Families, and serves as the Gary D. Chapman Chair of Marriage and Family Ministry and Therapy at Moody Bible Institute in Chicago. And I love that you put this in there. Dr. Trent's biggest accomplishment is being married. It's true for most of us.
Yeah.
And you've done it for 38 years to your wife, Cindy, and you've been a father to 2 amazing daughters. Welcome, sir.
Well, thanks. Great to be with you again. What an honor.
Oh, man. Look, you have so much to offer D6. I'm so happy that you are are here. We were just together a few months ago with D6 celebrating their 10-year anniversary, and now here we are again. Today, I want to just keep unpacking the blessing. There's so many layers to this. And I don't think I've talked to you about this part, because we usually talk about the blessing in context of parents and their children.
Right.
But you have material on marriage. We just mentioned 38 years of husbands blessing wives and wives blessing husbands. And that kind of sets the tone for the family, is what you say.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. There's lots of books and, tools out there that really dig into what you ought to do. And not just that, but maybe even, how, get real practical, which is really important. And we can get into some of that today. But I'm telling you, Jeremy, the key question so often is the why question. And what the blessing really does is it answers for a lot of people, because amazingly, this book, has been around for almost 40 years. Right now, I'm getting ready to send in the 5th edition. So most books don't, it's like the Energizer Bunny. I don't know why it keeps going. But I think the reason why it does is that question, why? Because there's so many of us that go into marriage, and frankly, we've seen perhaps our own, like my dad and mom divorced when I was 2 months old. And so for a lot of us, there's so many why questions. So why didn't I have a good model that I could see? Or, why is it that when I try to, really love my wife well, it's almost like we're not on the same page. And so I think there's some tools, biblical tools. I'm not talking about a book, because the blessing is just based on a great biblical premise. But I think there are some really powerful biblical premises that get to that level, kind of like you said. They dig down and they go, man, this helps answer the why. No wonder I'm so, I've been feeling so lonely. Well, guess what? A big part of that is, for a lot of us, we don't feel like we have that blessing, and so that's once you do, figure that out and begin layering that into your most important relationships. I mean to tell you, it can be huge. Then all the tools and techniques make sense. But this is just one of those concepts, I think, that really does that.
Okay, so I'm glad that we have the blessing expert here, because I'm a married man who wants to stay married. So let's talk from this perspective. You have a book called 30 Examples of How We Can Be a Blessing to One Another. Ways a husband can bless his wife and ways a wife can bless her husband. So yes, let's get practical. What are some ways that I can bless my wife and she can bless me in our marriage?
Well, I think a lot of times, we're so used to thinking it's that big thing. I need to bless my wife. Oh, okay. Well, we need to fly to, Orlando and go to Disney World, or we need to go on a Christian cruise. That'll do it. I was actually on a cruise. Cindy and I, my wife, were on, and I put out this counseling sheet. There were 200 couples, and I thought, well, if anybody's bored, maybe they could take a half an hour. Would take a half an hour slot. I did 22 sessions in a day and a half, and all of them were ports of last call. And these couples were going on a cruise, thinking, well, if I do something big, then everything's going to get better. And yet, but I think it's the opposite. What's really interesting about the blessing is it really does small things, So here's one, just in that appropriate, meaningful touch is there were 5 things that are always a part of the blessing. There was touch. You would use your words to attach. That's number 2. You'd verbalize it. Number 3, you'd attach high value to somebody with your words, with your touch. And all of a sudden, now they were beginning to believe, and you want to communicate that you've got a special future. You're going to hang around there, and then 5, that genuine commitment. So if those are those 5 elements of the blessing, you can start breaking those down into super small, what we call 2-degree ways to bless. Just, small changes of the steering wheel. Not a 180-degree turn, just a small 2-degree change. So can I give you a couple quick examples?
Please.
Okay, so let's just run through those real quick. So appropriate, meaningful touch. It may not be appropriate, like UCLA and their tactile research program did a study where the average woman, think about this, needs 8 to 10 appropriate touches a day just to maintain health. Well, I know, and we hear that as guys, and we're going, well, I can solve that, and so, hey, get over here, honey, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, that may not be appropriate, So, but I'm telling you what's almost always appropriated is, again, just like with my wife, Cindy, I grew up in Arizona where it's okay to hug your horse, not your kids, and I didn't have that, but boy, you go to the mall and you reach over and you take her hand. It's that 2-minute back rub, no strings attached. It's those small things. So look for small ways. When you first come in, it's just that taking the time, just to give her a hug, and then when you do hug her, just count to 4. Because the average person, it's like, after we've been married a while, it's like, get over here and, give me a hug. But but just hold them for just a minute. And I mean, if you count to 4, that's long enough to where all of a sudden they notice. So that's number one. Another real practical thing is, it says in Proverbs, bright eyes makes the heart glad. Okay? So this is so simple. But remember, we're supposed to attach high value to our spouse. That's one of the ways we can bless them. Well, so here's your job. When you go home, tell me your wife's name.
Elizabeth.
Okay, so when you see, you've been gone for a couple of days, when you get home and you see Elizabeth, then what I want you to do is just make your eyes really bright. You know how you just open them up like,
okay, I'm going to do this.
All right, now just do it. Don't stand there, just go, and I'm telling you, when you're in a room and, there's all these people and there's that one person that sees you and almost involuntarily their eyes light up. I'm telling you, it just makes you feel like, oh, somebody here likes me. Somebody here cares about me,
Wow.
And it's a really super small thing, but I'm telling you, bright eyes makes the heart glad. That's just a winner, in terms of things. And then let me just give you one more real quick one, just a small thing, that we can do to bless each other. And I think, again, we think big things. It's so often it's the small things, Well, one thing that I try to do with Cindy, and I'm not always world class at this, but I certainly try, is that realize that actions dictate feelings, not the reverse. Okay, so think about that. You don't feel your way into acting different. Actions dictate feelings, not the reverse.
Yeah.
And so what I'll do is I'll take her hand, that appropriate touch, look her in the eye, good eye contact, and say, okay, so what's one thing on my list that I haven't done that if I did it today, or it's on your list, I can either take it off of your list or it's on my list and I could knock it out that I haven't done. And I'm telling you, if Elizabeth's anything like Cindy, that takes her nanoseconds to go, okay, well, you could do this. And what you're doing is stepping towards her. So you're saying, look, okay, you're carrying around a lot of things. What's something I can take out of your backpack? Just that small thing. So those are just 3 things, that, just looking for ways for appropriate, meaningful touch. How many times have I said appropriate? And then, and then also just, just being able to, with our bright eyes and with our leaning into helping them and serving them, because that's a huge goal. Those are just 3 real practical things we can do right off.
So I need some real talk for a second. Like, you do such a good job breaking this down, right? But like your wife has to have heard you teach about bright eyes before. So has there ever been a time where like you give her the bright eyes and you're like, don't give me the bright eyes? I've heard you teach about that.
You know what?
Because my wife would totally do that. If she knew that you coached me on that and then I gave her the bright eyes, she'd be like, he taught you to do that.
Hey, Cindy can give you some sometimes she'll give me page numbers. So, no, that's true. But I'm telling you, there's an amazing study on flattery. Mm-hmm. Think about this. Okay, when you walk into a store and you try something on, and even if you don't think it looks good on you, if the person selling it to you goes, gosh, that looks really good on you, a lot of times people will change their perspective. And even if they know the person's just doing it to sell it to them. So I'm not saying be disingenuous. I mean, it's bright eyes. But, I grew up in a single-parent home, and really where I learned that was my mom was a rheumatoid arthritic. She's working full-time. There's 3 boys under 2 when my dad bailed out. And the way you get 3 under 2 is I'm a twin. You have to have a multiple, okay? So to get 3 under 2. But I am telling you, every stinking time she would drive into work, and this is Arizona, no air conditioning, an old Ford Falcon. She'd pull in, we'd come running out the door towards her, and she looked at us like, oh my goodness, here's the heavyweight boxing champion in the world. This is somebody that's of great value. So I'm sure there were times that, my mom stopped the car around the corner. I don't know, but, before she pulled in and had those bright eyes. But most of the time they're not asking, why are you asking to serve me? That one thing. Why are you, opening the car door for me? Instead of going, get in the car, your arm broken, I saw that the other day. It was so convicting. This guy opened the car door for his wife, and every once in a while your head just drops and goes, okay, I got to do that. I got to start doing that again.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so many of those small things.
What about blessing in the context of conflict? And husbands and wife, conflict is a whole nother level of communication. Can we bless each other even then?
Well, I think one way you bless somebody is that 5th element of the blessing is genuine commitment. Okay? So here's something that's huge. I mean, it's huge. So picture 3 stair steps. Okay, so this is with Cindy and me, not with you and Elizabeth, because you guys never struggle, but with Cindy and I. So, but it always starts out with an issue, right? And it could be save, spend. We have those. Cindy's we're so opposite. I mean, she's left-handed, I'm right-handed. I'm a night person, she's a morning person. She wants the toilet paper to go off the top of the roll. I just want it there. I don't really care. So we have lots of differences. So we have lots of issues, right? Now, if you don't solve an issue, whatever it is, if you're not careful, you'll all of a sudden, like you said, here's the conflict. You'll move to level 2. So it's like taking a step up. Level 2 is where you start attacking the person. So that's when I say to Cindy, let's say it's save, spend. We get an unexpected check and I want the new big screen and she wants to put it in savings. So now that's an issue, but if we're not careful, I can start attacking the person. So, this came out of the blue. we're never going to have the money for a big screen like this. Why are you being such a skinflint? And then she might, say, well, why aren't you being a better steward? I go, well, why don't you be more submissive? Well, you're totally taking that word out of context. Well, your mother's out of context, Do you see what I'm getting at? So I think for a lot of us, we get there and, level 2, and now we're totally off the issue that started it, and we're on to attacking. And if you're not careful, if you stay at level 2 long enough, you'll move up to level 3. And that's when, at least in your mind, even if you don't say it out loud, that's when you say, well, if these are the kinds of issues we have, and if you're this kind of person, then what in the world am I doing in this relationship? And pretty soon, every level 1 issue goes right to level 3. So those are the people that come into my counseling practice all the time. I mean, they squeeze the toothpaste wrong, and I'm done. It's grounds for. So I think if you can, the way you can bless somebody in conflict, I don't think you try to be cutesy and do the bright eyes things, or even try to grab their hand, if you reached it, but what you can do, and I do this all the time with Cindy, is I give her permission, but if I catch myself, I'll do it too, is I'll say, honey, we're at level 2, aren't we? Or I'll say something and all of a sudden you realize the impact because you see it on her, and you go, well, you know what? I think what I did, that's level 2. I'm attacking you. We're off the issue, aren't we? And boy, she'll nod her head. And so one way you can communicate that, say, well, you know what? I don't want to do that. I don't want to go up to 2. We certainly don't want to go up to 3 in our mind or saying it. I had a couple once where the guy, I try to drag in kids sometimes. Boy, you talk about God's little spies, And I remember we were talking to this little girl, and this couple was really struggling. And I said, well, what is it that's toughest for you? This is about a 12-year, and she goes, well, it's when Daddy throws his wedding ring away. And I go, help me with that. And he goes, well, when he gets really ticked, he'll take off his ring and he just chucks it in the house and it'll bounce off the wall or something. And what the wife was feeling was what? Man, there goes our... Now, he wasn't saying I'm at level 3 and I'm out of here verbally, but he was giving her a word picture that she couldn't miss and the kids couldn't miss. And I said, all right, so genuine commitment. You keep that dumb ring on. Don't, from here on out, don't ever throw that ring again. Don't take it off unless they have to cut it off. Now, I mean, that's being dramatic, but that's what I said to him. But the point is that, again, we want to say, I think even during conflict, we don't want to communicate verbally or non-verbally, see what I mean, that we're out of here.
Yeah.
So.
I love that. Let's talk about the finish line, because you are 38, or sorry, 38. I made you older than you want to be.
Well, actually, it's 39.
Oh,
I know.
sorry. You're 39 years. You're almost to 40 years of
next
marriage.
year it's 40 years, yeah.
And most of us married, we want to make it there. We're just hoping to get to 40 years and past it. So from your perspective, when we practice blessing in our marriage, what is the reward that we can look forward to?
Well, it's interesting. Gary Chapman, I get to work with Gary, who did the 5 love languages. I started off working with Gary Smalley, which is a pretty neat Gary, who's with the Lord now. But now I get to work with Gary Chapman, so that's a couple of pretty cool Garys to work with. But Gary wrote a book called, it's really on the second half of marriage. And it's all these people just sharing, okay, how did you get there? But asking the question you just did, which was, what's the benefit or whatever. And of course, again, with me, never having seen a dad at home or having a picture of a marriage that stayed intact, so much of this has been plowing new ground. So I can't, some people can go, well, I want to be like mom and dad and make it to 55, whatever they did, But I think the greatest impact for me is the blessing it is on our kids. And I'm telling you, both of our girls are married, and they're in those first couple of years, and there's struggles and challenges. And guy, you look back, and one of the things that has blessed our socks off is they go, well, we're going to hang in like they do. Not perfect. We have tons of flaws. I am grateful. I teach counselors now, teach people how to counsel. But Cindy and I, for 18 years, went to this guy named Bill Retz, who's an outstanding Christian counselor in Phoenix, where I live. And for 18 years, we went to 3 sessions with Bill Retz every year. until he got old and tapped out. Okay. And after that, we had to go to different people. But we do 3 sessions a year because I will die long before I run out of issues to work on. So we have to keep working on issues just like anybody else. But I'm telling you, it gives your kids a picture of, and that's what I want, at the end, is to say, he was the real deal, period. Not perfect and totally flawed and broken. Why do we need a savior if we don't, we're not, nobody's perfect, but, you just want to be sold out to Lord, Jesus, I want to love like Jesus and hang in there.
You guys have been listening to Dr. John Trent, and I think you now understand, if you have never heard him before, why we love him so much here at D6. Hey, if you want to hear more, if you want to grab the book that we were discussing today, if you want to just be exposed to more of the resources and ministry from Dr. Trent, you can go to strongfamilies.com. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hey, thanks.
Splink is a simple way to help families in your church link together spiritually. It comes as a free weekly email with ideas that parents can use to have fun, make memories, and talk with their kids. Those teachable moments give moms and dads opportunity to share spiritual truths and life lessons. And no matter how busy life is, there's always time to Splink. Share d6family.com with the parents in your ministry so they can sign up today to start receiving free weekly Splink.
I think you can all see why John is one of our favorites. John was one of the original names that we called when we were planning the very first D6 conference in Dallas back in, the event was 2009. We called him in 2008, and he said yes. And he became an advisor for us and still serves in an advisory capacity for us to this day. And he serves on our D6 Family Ministry Journal advisory board as well.
And I've got a spoiler for you. Spoiler alert.
Yeah?
Yes. I love when I say things like this and the producers' heads just pop up.
They do. They look like a murky.
It's one of my goals. They're like the meerkats at the zoo.
Right.
They're like, wait a second, this wasn't planned.
That's right.
What is he spoiling? I did not give him permission to spoil, but I'm going to do this. Spoiler alert.
But the meerkats are a little taller than they are.
At the end of this interview,
yes,
we had an impromptu moment where he and I were just talking, and we said, we talk about blessing families. What about how, because the power God gives us to bless, there's an opposite side to that. He also gives us the same power to curse.
Yes.
The freedom to curse.
Yes.
Our families. And so what happens with that? And so it just kind of turned into another little short interview, which next week we'll be sharing.
We'll get part 2 in a shorter form.
Yeah. So that'll be
Absolutely.
very cool. Speaking of cool, Olivia Bruner, we've already kind of set up what she's going to be talking about, and she just has a lot to offer us as well. So let's just jump in and listen to Olivia. I'm excited to introduce to you guys today Olivia Bruner. She's a former 6th grade teacher and mother of 6 children. Good job.
6 children. Well, thank you.
I mean, that's an accomplishment that deserves respect.
Amen. Amen to that. I agree.
She serves on the DriveFaithHome.com coaching team and as a speaker for the Home Point Ministry. And just blessed me just a second ago and said that they have received a lot of you guys as our podcast listeners that have come through, right?
Oh, absolutely. We have people fill out a form when they come online just so we can contact them if they want information. And we always ask them, where did you hear about us? And over we hear D6 Podcast, D6 Podcast. So
yay.
That is so good. People are actually listening and hearing those messages of all this work that you're doing.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
She's been a frequent guest on Focus on the Family, Family Life, other popular programs. And she co-hosts the It Starts at Home video curriculum for parents with her husband, Kurt Bruner. She's also the author of The Minivan Years, I love that, and PlayStation Nation, and co-creator of the Just Add Family Activity Kit. You're busy. You got a lot going on.
I am busy, yeah. But remember, I'm old too. So it's been spread over many, many years. I'm not like, this has been done over a lifetime. So it's been a gift that God has given us to be able to minister over these years, yeah.
Incredible. So at Home Point, your main mission is to restore the home as the primary context of spiritual information. So tell us about that mission.
Well, really, my husband worked at Focus on the Family for 21 years, and he was over resources, books, and all that stuff. And we began to see this trend of parents, coming to Focus, which is great, and getting these resources from them. So there's this third party creating the resources, and we would go to parenting conferences and teach, and people get all excited about it, right? And then they go back home to their church, and they don't have a culture. They don't have a culture that's encouraging this for them, and they don't have a community that's also trying to do the same thing as they raise their kids and teach their children. And so really it just got to the point where we realized it's not about that there's not enough materials out there. They're out there. People are creating them. It's that parents aren't using them. They don't understand this is their mission. This is what they need to do. So when we left Focus and we began to pray about where we go, we really felt like the Lord was saying, go to the church, create a model in the church where families can see other families passing their faith and be encouraged in that, and they can share stories and pray for one another, and the church can resource them. So we basically took all that knowledge and we said, we're gonna create a little mini resource center in the church for these families so that when they have a difficult teen or a financial crisis, they can go to their church and say, help me. And the church can have the basic resources to start with and just kind of a self-serve, but then after that, they can go deeper if they need to. So, yeah.
Why do you think the home has diverted from being a place where children get their spiritual information?
Well, why? Is a big question, but I think it happened a long time ago. I think always in the beginning, that's how God intended. That's what He wanted. That's where you see common grace. You see a picture of the gospel in the home. So why it happened, I think just over time as our world has changed and we've gotten to the point where we outsource everything, to everybody, it's just been very easy to make it easy for people to just say, hey, I'm not going to do it. I'm busy. You do it for me, And we've made them feel like that's enough. It's enough. Let us do it for you. Your kids will be fine.
Yeah.
When they really won't be. They really need them more than they need us. We really are here to support them. So I think the why kind of happened over years, but it really had more of a cultural change than a Christian change. And then Christians always, we don't mean to, but we just change because the culture changes around us. Yeah.
All right, so how can churches then begin to empower fathers and mothers to take up the duty of helping shape the lives of their kids when it comes to their walk with the Lord?
Well, I think the empowerment comes through creating that culture for them, first of all, like I talked about, but also resourcing them. I feel like parents don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. And I think that you need to make it easy for them. That's our two bylines, make it easy and make it likely that they'll do something. We would go teach to these families and we would give them 25 years of activities we've done. And we'd say, now don't try to go home and do all these tomorrow. And some of these might not work for your family. Pick one thing. Just do one thing with your kids this week that shares your faith with them in any way, one of these ideas that might work for you. So I think the church can be the person who says, you can do it, we can help, kind of like that Home Depot thing, you do your job, you do it, but we're going to help you and we're going to give you ideas and we're going to constantly put it in front of you and help you, resource you when you're struggling. And I think that's the way to do it, not to do it for them, to just come alongside.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
So while you're here at D6, you're leading a breakout, you said.
I did.
What's the title of it?
So the title of it was, is technology ruining basically family discipleship? Yeah.
And what's the answer?
Yes. What do you think? It is yes. Can it ruin it, basically? And yeah, what's happening with technology is it's happened so fast. And I talked in my breakout about 2007 is when the iPhone came out. And so we're at 11 years now. And you look at children, junior high school especially, they're more lonely. They have their identity is worse than ever. They don't know where their identity is. They're reaching out to this virtual thing to get their identity in Instagram and Facebook. And none of those things are bad or immoral in itself. But a child's brain is developing these grooves and these disciplines, and they don't know how to handle that yet. And they need to get their identity, first of all, as part of your family. well, first of all, with Christ, but in that context of your home and all these devices and technology, when we just hand them to them, I feel like I give the example of, the Pied Piper story where all the little children just follow him out of the village. I feel like that's what we're doing. We're giving our children technology, and it's really the Pied Piper who's just trying to take them away from us when we have the most influence on them during that time. And so really to be careful that our job then is to develop their character, develop their love, their compassion, their diligence, their hardworking, their all the things that we want them to do. And when we put those technology things in their hands so early, then it's really, really hard for them to even focus on those things because they get drawn away from us and from God, really, easily.
So I know when I tell my sons to put down their phones or get off technology, the next question is always, well, what do I do then?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do they do?
So,
help me give me an answer.
I'm going to help you out with that. There are so many other things to do. I think the problem is when the technology is in front of them, that's all they can see. And so when you put it away, it might take them a few days of nothing to do to figure out what else is there to do. But it's like the Bible says, be still and know that I am God. Until you're still for a minute, you can actually figure out who he is and where you are with him. So it's the same thing for our children. Give them some time to say, hey, we're having all this time with no technology. What are we going to do with it? How about a board game? How about we go out and play? How about we look each other in the face and have a conversation? How about we go on a bike ride? I mean, let's find some other things to do that are face-to-face. We're embodied people, right? God made us to have relationship. And when we give them this technology so early, they think their relationships are with technology. And they're not. And technology is not a bad thing. We're using it today, right? But it is something that while their brains are developing and their character, their basic character is developing, this is when their brains are being hardwired. It's very, very important that you teach them the character development that you want, the character traits you want, before you hardwire those brains to say, what makes me happy? My technology. And it's a really good replacement. It's like a virtual replacement for the real life thing that God wants to give us. Yeah.
Now, I love your book titles, by the way. The Minivan Years and PlayStation Nation.
Do you have a minivan?
I have one here this week.
Oh, I'm proud of you.
And the Honda Odyssey logo on the back is leaning, and I don't want to fix it because I think it's hilarious.
It is hilarious.
But my wife's like, that does not look good. We must fix
Leave it.
So it's a little bit of a debate.
Leave it. Tell her I said leave it.
The author of Minivan Years said leave it. So, hey, let's talk more about DriveFaithHome.com. What projects do you have going on? What's something that we can get excited about with you?
Well, we have a couple brand new things. So we've been, Drive Faith Home and Home Point has celebrated their 10-year anniversary this year. So we did a complete new look to all of our material. We now have like 34 season pointers is what we call them, different stages and the parents are in, and probably 20 different initiatives on different subjects. One of them is technology, like we talked about. Another one is prayer at home, meals at home, all of this. So we redid the look of all that just to kind of update it a little bit. We call it it's like a Joanna Gaines kind of look, and that's been fun. And then the biggest thing is in January, we're launching an app. So we're really hoping that churches who adopt the Home Point material and have it available for their kids and their parents can actually put a lot of this material on an app that the parents can get to, so it won't be so print heavy for the churches. Because right now it's very print heavy because you're giving out these resources in print material, which can, can be a little heavy on churches that are lower staff and stuff. So we asked our churches last year, what's the one thing you really want from us? And they all said an app with some of your material on it. So that's going to roll out in January.
Incredible.
Yeah, so we're excited.
Thank you, guys. We are talking to Olivia Bruner from DriveFaithHome.com. Hey, thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. I'd love to be in here.
Well, our thanks go to Olivia Bruner. She is one of those voices that I believe that's her first time on the podcast, but she's just a friend of D6, and it's so great to kind of have her jump in with us.
Yeah, I especially thank Olivia for this interview. And that's the thing is the roots in our family are so important. We don't think that way. This goes back to, again, I know we're tying this together, but our previous guests have told us about the depth of what we need to do with our kids. And we don't often have it. We usually have light, fluffy conversations. And she has challenged us about anything but light and fluffy.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being with us today. We always love to hear from you. So, and we haven't done this in a while, Ron. People may not realize you welcome our listeners, to email you.
Yes, absolutely.
You can give suggestions about the podcast.
That's right.
You can explain to him how well his co-host does and how much you love him.
Brag on Jeremy. Yes, tell me where I've messed up along the way.
I cringed the first time he gave his email address out because, I mean, folks like Ron don't normally do that because they have so much to manage on their email accounts. But he does it because he wants to get to know our listeners. So, Ron, would you be willing, yet again, to give out your email address to the folks they can talk to?
I'll do both. I'll do my email and my Twitter, which we both promoted.
And your cell phone number. Go ahead.
And yes,
and your bank card.
The Twitter
blood
is
type.
that's right. Twitter is at Ron Hunter. No spaces, at Ron Hunter. People go, how'd you get that? Well, I jumped on board first year, and it was at the suggestion of my administrative assistant who said this was a social media platform I would enjoy.
You early adopter.
Yes, yes, not a procrastinator. So with that, also my email address is my first and last name with a period in between it, ron.hunter@randallhouse.com, RANDALL. HOUSE. Randall House is the publisher, the Christian publisher, nonprofit Christian publisher behind and founder of D6 Family Ministry. So D6 is part of Randall House. So ron.hunter@randallhouse.com.
I just love that you do that. Hey, guys, take him up on that. Ask him about life advice, family ministry advice, get to know him. He seriously wants to connect with our listeners.
Tell us what you most need. Here's what I would say, Jeremy, on this. Leadership and discipleship are both relational. And that's why I don't mind doing this, because unless we have a relationship with the people who are serving in the trenches, we cannot serve them well.
Yes. All right, next week. I don't always use this term. I'm going to go ahead and use it. I think next week is a must listen.
You don't use that very often.
I don't. And I believe it to be true. Every year I kind of have a surprise that comes out of our lineup of guests that I get to interview, honored to interview. And this one was my surprise. I just want to throw that out there to people. Mike and Nikki Lejeune. I had never heard of them, had no idea about any of it. I mean, obviously, I began to do research on them, and they became more interesting. But when they sat down, they were just plain delightful.
Yeah.
And you just kind of, they give such a window into their relationship. And what I loved about them is they did not pretend to be perfect. They talked about how they messed up but they navigated it through relationship. For me, Ron, and I think you might agree with this, I just believe having a relationship with your kid covers up so many mistakes.
Yes, it does.
And just for me, I talk to my wife about this all the time. I'm like, when we get nervous and scared, I just say, let's just protect the relationship. If we can protect the relationship, we can make it through. And that's, for me, what you get to see on display in a beautiful way through Mike and Nikki. So you will enjoy that. I promise you that. And then again, like we teased earlier, John Trent will be back, and he flips that whole blessing thing. And we talked then about cursing, what can happen when we take our opportunity to bless and miss it and turn it into a curse, and how that can affect a family for generations. So that, again, a must listen.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll set up more of this next week when you hear, because Jeremy's right. This was a surprise interview, but it was also, they spoke on the main stage at D6, and I will tell the story next week on how our audience responded to that. Okay, so I don't know if we could have done a better tease for next week's episode. So you guys hopefully will be with us. And what we hope and pray is that, and I say this every week, but I mean it from the bottom of my heart, we hope and pray you have a great week of ministry.
You've been listening to the D6 Podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.